Most school systems have demonstrated some bias towards students of color. If you're talking about North Carolina school systems, there's still a great deal of work that needs to be done to address the issues of racism and diversity in their school systems. And if the schools haven't done that, then there's certainly likely to be discrimination, biases towards students who come from diverse backgrounds, simply because the faculty and the staff haven't received, in some cases, sufficient training to address the diversity that their students bring to the table. I'm Charles Stevens. I grew up during the Jim Crow era, went through integrated schools, went to college at Wilberforce University in Wilberforce, Ohio, did graduate work at Kent State University. I retired from the University of Akron. I directed minority student retention at the University of Akron. I did diversity training with police officers throughout the state of Ohio. I retired with emeritus status. Well, there's a couple of reasons. And it's not just North Carolina schools. I think nationally, that's probably the case, unless the schools have done work with their faculty and staff around issues that relate to diversity. So part of the problem points to perhaps the lack of training they've received in the school system regarding diversity, and the lack of their broadening their experiences with people from diverse backgrounds. The more experiences you've had with people from diverse backgrounds, the more understanding you may be of what might be called disruptive behavior, and the better skills you may have to redirect that inappropriate behavior in a constructive way. All statistics show that black students are disciplined at a much harsher rate than their white counterparts for the same offense. And again, it goes back to the fact that schools haven't addressed the issue of diversity thoroughly and completely. They don't see it as a problem. They see the problem as that there are students who come in that won't behave themselves.
I'm a teacher assistant for handicapped kids. I think that white teachers already have a preconceived notion of black students because that's what we learn in college. Because predominantly black families are more low income and poor, don't have fathers, and that's mainly that's what we're perceived as. That's what they're perceived as before they even start. Like, I know they're gonna be trouble.
If I've had limited experience with minority students, then I'm likely to absorb some of the prejudices that the culture as large has towards those students. And unless I work very hard to understand my prejudice, they're likely to manifest itself in how I react to students who come from diverse backgrounds. I mean, it's not enough to say I'm a good guy or I treat everybody fairly. We all have some biases towards people that are different. And part of the reason is that sometimes we have limited exposure to those people. And if I increase my exposure, then I increase my understanding and comfortability with those people that are different than me. And that changes my behavior towards those people. So I can understand their behavior a little bit better, not be as critical of them for behaving the way they behave. Minority students are treated more harshly. I mean, not necessarily in all school systems, but by and large, they're treated much harsher for the same offense than their white counterparts, not only in the school system, but in the judicial system as well. I mean, just look at the statistics.
Anytime a black student does something, it's way more noticeable. Like, it's always going to be an issue about it. Like, did you see what they did? But a white student been doing it. And for dress code, for instance, like, white girls can wear leggings or short shorts. Nobody says nothing. A black girl walks by, you got to call home. Now, I have witnessed that every day. Like, it's an issue where your jeans got too many holes in them, you can't wear that. But then a white girl is around all day with tight leggings on, it's no issue at all.
often happens is this, that if a student, whether black or white, doesn't get positive feedback in their first 3 or 4 years of school, then they're going to be turned off by school in general and probably drop out before high school. And when they drop out, their options are very limited in terms of what they can do. So what's going to happen is this, and this is already happening. If they have negative experiences, they're going to drop out. They're not going to continue to go to a place that doesn't validate them as a person. And it affects their income for life. They're likely to be in poverty. They're likely to end up having children that they cannot support. But it happened back when they were in school. They got turned off. They didn't get the support they needed. They had teachers that didn't care about them, that didn't provide a nurturing, supportive environment. So it has an extremely detrimental effect, not only on the person as an individual, but on society as a whole, because they're going to be doing things, because they got turned off at school, that's going to be harmful to society as a whole. They'll be doing things to support their families that people are going to be very uncomfortable with. And it goes trace it back to their early experiences in school and the lack of support they may have received in their family unit.
This does lead to more disciplinary issues, because if you keep getting down on a race of people to make them feel low, how are they supposed to feel about themselves? If you're never allowed to stay in class and you're always ISS and being suspended, how are you going to learn? If you can't stay in class, who's going to teach you? And the teachers are not going to make sure that you get what you need to know. I see black students believe they're bad themselves because there's not enough black staff members in these schools in this county to take up for, it's usually only 1 or 2 black staff members in a school. And black students really don't have support. They don't see anybody that looks like themselves.
Schools will always say we can't find qualified blacks, as if they're hiding from them, you know. But if they needed a trombone player or trumpet player someplace in rural West Virginia, and the band needed it, they would find them. But they can't find qualified blacks. And
especially a black man. There are no black men in no classrooms. I'm the only one at my school. So like they don't see any. So like you're always surrounded by white people that don't like you. So I mean I can see where black students probably feel less privileged than any other race, because that's the way we're taught. That's the way we're like kind of treated. There's like no outreach to blacks at all.
Standardized tests are biased. If you look at your research, you will find that standardized tests are biased. ACT, SAT are biased. There have been in recent years efforts to try to lessen that biasness, but they are biased. One reason. Second reason is that they're not as predictive of other instruments for success of minority students. I used to be on the selective committee for BSMD students. Those are the students who went through a 6-year accelerated program to get into medical school. And our research showed that minority students who scored, say, a 24 on the ACT, between a 24 and a 30, their academic, there was no significant difference in terms of their performance in medical school or in the college, than students who scored a 30. So you had a range of, say, of 25 points on ACT where their performance was the same as students who scored a 30. But if you looked at the score and say, I scored a 24 and you scored a 30, that meant that you were a better student. Then our research showed that was not the case. But for minority students, those scores are not accurate. The key is this, that you have to take other criteria into consideration for admitting minority students and non-traditional students is what I'm saying. That ACTSA scores are not as predictive as they are for white students. The same thing is true with non-traditional students as well. The scores are not as predictive. My solution is different than what you will hear from other people. White people created a system of racism. They have to play a larger role in dismantling that system. Black people don't have the resources or the power to dismantle racism. They don't have the resources or the power to dismantle racism. So you got to have white people willing to step up to the plate and say, let's have a candid discussion about racism. Let me hear your experiences and let's work together towards dismantling this system that favors me because of my skin color and my heirs because of their skin color. Let's come up with a way to dismantle this system. There are some people that I can talk to as a white person. There's some people you can talk to as a black person. Now, I find it always interesting is that white people are often very quiet when it comes to talking about racism, because they get real intimidated, real uncomfortable, because they're worried that someone is going to call them a racist, and they don't really call a racist. That's the question is, white people have to take a bigger ownership in dismantling this system with the help and support of black folks. It's sort of like you built this car, it runs over people, but you want me to dismantle it or to stop it. How do you stop it? You built it. How do you stop it? Your grandparents built it. How do you stop it? I can tell you what it's doing to me, but how do you stop it? Do you educate people, about it? Do you put the resources into educating people about it? Those are the kinds of questions that white people and black people need to have. But this is a white problem, not a black problem. And as long as you paint it as a black problem, you're not going to get this problem solved. We can assist, but it's a white problem. You created it. You're going to have to play an instrumental role in dismantling it if you want it dismantled. Do you want to dismantle a system that's sexist? If you dismantle a sexist, then I may not have to run to the door to open the door for my wife, right? Right? I may have to not do some of the things that I'm used to doing. My wife may not want me. I know my wife, but you follow what I'm getting at? I used to have this debate with feminist women. I would be trying to get to the door to open the door for them, and they'll be running as fast as I would to open the door for themselves because they said, I don't need for you to open the door for me. I can open the door for myself. That's sort of a jokish way of putting it. But my point is that there are women that are comfortable with being in a sexist society because they like being sex objects, but they haven't thought about the negative impact it has on their potential. There are minorities who are comfortable in this system because once they get pinned as being okay by white society, then they feel that I'm better than those other folks, below me are. So there are black folks who benefit from this system as well. But by and large, this is a destructive system that's going to hurt society as a whole and continues to hurt society as a whole. And white people, and I know I'm repeating myself, has to take a bigger role in dismantling it. And black people have to be their support system, share with them. This is where one of the problems is. There's a problem over there you need to address. There's a problem over here you need. Because we can point where the problems are, but you got the resources to dismantle it. You created it. You got to play a bigger role. And if you find people of white people that don't want to do that, then either they're worried about their jobs, they're worried about what their peers are going to say, or they're comfortable with the system.